Public grievances unbearable after Beijing and Shanghai escalate pandemic control. Annual Human Rights Awards suspended in Hong Kong. International capital rapidly flees China. Hello and welcome to Sound of Hope News. I'm your host, Liam O'Neill. For the last 2 weeks, this program has been opening with news of the strict lockdowns in Shanghai and other large cities. Barren grocery shelves, steel fencing with barbed wire, shouting matches with authorities, and social media censorship characterized these lockdowns. Now it appears that Beijing is also close to going into lockdown. Sound of Hope was able to reach a resident of the Fangshan district of Beijing for an interview. His voice is obscured to protect his identity. If Beijing ends up like Shanghai, some people may not be able to bear it, he says. This is the political center. If this continues and ordinary people can't survive, what should we do? The man continued expressing a belief that the government's draconian measures are not about a new COVID strain, but are a reflection of political problems that are much more serious. He said, "It's pure political oppression. We all know that Omicron's symptoms are lighter than a cold, lasting only 3 days. But the government is so desperate to continue nucleic acid tests and isolation. It wants control. That's its intention, and everyone can see it." He also refers to a difference between people who can break through the internet blockade and those who can't. Ordinary people who do not have access to the internet do not know the characteristics of Omicron. But now, thanks to technology, the whole world knows what happens within 5 minutes. How could the government not let people know? The man's frustrations may have arisen due to the discrepancy between the harsh reality of the lockdowns and the official numbers. Beijing reported that cases between April 22 to 24 are only 41 people sick, with no deaths, and that's in a city of 21 million. Nonetheless, all residents within the Chaoyang areas of Beijing, that's one of Beijing's 5 major districts, will undergo nucleic testing within the next week. Other neighborhoods have been designated high-risk or medium-risk areas. Grocery stores throughout Beijing are now running nearly empty. Shanghai's official case count is only slightly worse. From March 1st to April 24th, nearly 2 months, there have been 138 deaths counted among 500,000 cases of positive. And that, again, is in a city of over 20 million. As of midnight on the 24th, there were 196 severe patients and 23 critically ill patients. Despite the low numbers, Shanghai maintains its hard isolation measures. Streets are closed and building perimeters sealed with steel fencing and barbed wire. The Foreign Correspondents Club, FCC, in Hong Kong canceled its 26th annual Human Rights Press Awards over fears it will violate national security laws. FCC President Keith Richburg, a former Washington Post journalist, stated, quote, "Over the last 2 years, journalists in Hong Kong have been operating under new red lines on what is and is not permissible. But there remain significant areas of uncertainty, and we do not wish unintentionally to violate the law." The head of the University of Hong Kong's journalism school also added, "The FCC intends to continue promoting press freedom in Hong Kong, while recognizing that recent developments might also require changes to our approach." Timothy McLaughlin, he is a previous winner of the Human Rights Press Award, resigned from FCC on Sunday. He said that the decision was angering and sad. In 1997, the British government handed Hong Kong over to the Chinese regime. Under a one-country, two-systems agreement, China agreed to allow the region considerable political autonomy for 50 years, including free speech and a free press. In 2020, however, Beijing passed a controversial national security law, which included broad restrictions on democratic activities, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. Since then, dozens of pro-democracy activists and lawmakers have been arrested or forced into exile, and media outlets shuttered. The Human Rights Press Awards have been handed out for the last 25 years. Last year, the awards recognized journalists who exposed government repression, police brutality, COVID, lockdowns in China, and human rights issues across Asia. One of the former winners, Mary Hui, was also disappointed by the suspension. She pointed out that the club deleted from its website the mission statement, "Defend press freedom in Hong Kong and across the region." According to a Reuters report, FCC suspended the Human Rights Press Awards due to concerns over legal risks to the club, staff members, and judges from awarding 4 awards and 5 merits to Stand News. Last December, the liberal online news portal was forced to shut down after several of its top reporters were arrested on suspicion of publishing seditious articles. International investors are abandoning China on an unprecedented scale, according to the latest data from the Institute of International Finance. Last month's China investment outflows were worth $17.5 billion, an all-time high. The U.S. Trade Association said this phenomenon of foreign investors' capital flight was unprecedented. The outflow from China included $11.2 billion in bonds and the rest in stocks. The bond market pullback has been going on for several months, according to Chinese government data. February saw a foreign investment in Chinese bonds dip by 35 billion renminbi. That was a record. But in March, it saw a new record at 52 billion renminbi. China's support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine is clearly the catalyst for capital leaving China. That's according to George Magnus of the Oxford University China Center. He's also a former chief economist at the UBS Bank. Martin Chorzempa, a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, also cited China's pro-Russia stance as a reason for investor concerns. The common belief is that China could become the target of sanctions if it starts helping Russia. When meeting with the Russian ambassador to China on April 18th, Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Le Yucheng declared that the CCP will continue to strengthen strategic cooperation with Russia. In addition, the U.S. interest rate hike and the CCP's strict epidemic blockade policies are also 2 important factors that are scaring international investments away. That's all we have for today. Once again, please click that like button and click to subscribe for more Sound of Hope news. Thanks for joining us.